What's up, guys? We're back for another breakdown and predictions video, and this week I'm going to do a breakdown for Bare Knuckle FC 4, Knucklemania 4, and really excited for this card. I'm a fan of Bare Knuckle, and I want to know what you guys think. What do you guys think about Bare Knuckle promotion? Do you think it's going to be a player moving forward? Do you like it in the combat sports scene? Because I enjoy it. I think that they do a really good job. I think that they're doing a good job of actually building up prospects while also bringing in name talent to sell their shows, obviously. And I think that they put on a lot of events, and their big events sell. I mean, I'm going to be going to this BK Knucklemania 4, and I think that they've pretty much sold out, or they've sold out a majority of the tickets. And, yeah, man, I mean, they get more ticket sales than PFL, some of these bigger MMA promotions. So I definitely think, like, Bkfc is doing their thing, and I really like their fights. It's all action. And so definitely support their show this weekend. If you've never watched Bkfc, give it a chance. You know, Mike Perry versus Thiago Alves in the main event. Lorenzo Hunt versus Mick Terell are going to be fighting for the heavyweight title. We got Todd Duffy versus Ben Rothwell. And there's a lot of other good fights and good fighters throughout the whole card that I'm going to be talking about. So, yeah, guys, I mean, if you're interested in it, definitely check it out. And I want to know what you guys think. Do you guys like Bare Knuckle? Put a comment down below and let me know. But, yeah, man, this first fight of the night, hard one to predict here. Keith Richardson versus Cody Vidal. Keith Richardson, 41 years old. He's a pro boxer who had his first boxing fight in 2002. He went 1-6-1, one draw, 6 losses, 1 win between 2002 and 2005. But after that, he took a hiatus and came back in 2023. So he took almost 20 years off, and he was able to come back and get a first-round knockout, though, and that victory must have been seen by someone at BKFC because he received an opportunity to fight at Bkfc 59 on March 29th. And in that fight, he got another first-round knockout. So now he's coming back just a month later. Really quick turnaround. And I don't know how far Richardson expects to take this, but he knows what to expect now from Bkfc. He got that knockout in the first round, and I'm sure he's going to be confident and looking into this as maybe a bigger opportunity than he first imagined when he returned to boxing. But Cody Vidal, he's making a comeback to competition. He last fought March 24th, 2019, and that was an MMA fight. He was scheduled to fight a BKFC fight March 24th, 2023, but that fight didn't end up happening. And other than that, we haven't really heard much from Vidal. Vidal is 1-2 in MMA. He was 2-0 as an amateur, 1-2 as a pro. And this is his first boxing fight, first BKFC fight, and along with the layoff he's dealing with. So it's hard to know how he's going to look, how he's going to perform. He does train with Team Quest, so he has a great gym, and he's one of the younger fighters coming out of that gym. But one thing I do like about Cody Vidal is you see him even years ago boxing in the gym, and in his fights it looks like his striking looked kind of amateurish, though. I mean, he was showing huge reactions to feints. He was just running in to try to land punches with no setup, and his punch resistance didn't seem the greatest either. His last fight, he really got no offense off. He came into the fight with 2 knee pads on and hurt his knee quickly into the fight, ended the match. So probably came in there with a pre-existing injury just to get paid, maybe get insurance. But, you know, it's really fairly hard to figure out how he's going to look at all to me. But unless he's improved massively, I just don't expect much. He's also going to be undersized, and he has the lesser boxing experience. And he's had a lot of time off to hone his skills, you know, almost 4 years. So we'll see how Vidal looks. And it did look like he stayed in shape, so he probably has cardio. But Keith Richardson, he's been boxing way longer. He has that boxing pedigree. Seems like he has knockout power. And the only fight I was able to find of his was his last knockout, which was quick. So kind of difficult to really give you much analysis on Richardson. But I'm going to lean towards the old dog getting it done again in Keith Richardson, to beat Cody Vidal. I just don't know what to expect from Vidal, and I'll say Keith Richardson gets it done in that one, but kind of a crapshoot. That's not a fight, you know, I have a strong lean in or would have a bet on or anything like that. But this next fight, Tommy Aaron taking on Richard Brooks. This is another one that I'm a little bit interested in watching because Tommy Aaron is someone that's an MMA fighter who did fairly decent in MMA. He went 12-8. He was able to become the LXF champion. He is known for training with Tony Ferguson a little bit, and he kind of has that same style and attitude when he fights. So you know what you're going to get with him. And Richard Brooks, he's 39 years old out of Extreme Couture. He hasn't fought in a while, but 5-2 MMA fighter. And you look at both these guys, it's going to be their first BKFC fight, but Tommy Aaron, he's the more experienced and well-known commodity as far as MMA goes. He's also significantly younger. He's been more active. And he just got knocked out on February 16th, though, so there is some give and take. And another thing about Tommy Aaron that I don't like is he cuts really easily, so that could be a big issue in this format. But Tommy Aaron, 29 years old, 12-8, and he's fought for Bellator, LFA, Combate, so he's fought on big shows. And Richard Brooks, he hasn't fought since December 17, 2020. He mostly has fought on subpar, kind of small shows and against bad fighters. But in MMA, Richard Brooks is more of a wrestler. His hands looked rudimentary. He would just throw slow single shots. He didn't really set his punches up. He didn't have great head movement. He was stiff. His last fight, he got knocked out really bad with the right hand. And I think he's going to have to come out with a different style in this matchup to get the win. But honestly, it's a winnable matchup because Tommy Aaron is reckless. And like I said, he cuts easily. So it's not like Richard Brooks can't win. But Tommy Aaron, high-paced striker. He's going to be much faster, more mobile. He switches stances, tries to throw long punches. I think he's going to be a lot faster and probably throw a lot more volume. He's loose. He throws body-head combos, but doesn't really have that power. And he just got knocked out, pretty recently. So you have to be a little bit worried about Brooks just walking him down and not respecting him and landing something heavy. Aaron has been knocked out early in a couple of his fights as well, so he's not really the fastest starter. But I think Tommy Aaron overall should win this fight. Just more volume, being more active, showing more looks, and I think he could, knock Brooks out too, because I just don't think Brooks is that good overall. So Aaron is, to me, a decent bet at minus 160. I think that he should be around a minus 300, but the only worry, and for me it's a big worry, is him getting cut and then stopping the fight due to that. So that's what I'm worried about, but outside of that, I think Tommy Aaron will get the win as long as he just doesn't get knocked out again because of extra damage from February or something like that. And up next here, we got Shane Jordan taking on David Diaz. In this fight, this is more of kind of like that influencer type of fight because you look at Shane Jordan, he is the trainer for Bryce Hall and some other influencers like that. So he's a mitman, and he was in Bryce Hall's corner, I believe, for his BKFC win. But he looks in good shape. He looks good on the pads, hitting the bag, fast hands. But haven't really seen him spar much. He's never fought. This is going to be his first fight. So I think he had some amateur boxing fights where he went 4-5 in amateur boxing. But he hasn't had any pro fights is what I was trying to say. But he seems confident coming in here, and we won't really know until fight night. But David Diaz, this is going to be his fourth appearance in BKFC. He's a fighter who did not come from another sport. His first fight was for Bare Knuckle FC, and he won his first two, but he lost his most recent one, and all three of his fights went to decision. He hasn't fought since November of 2022 either, so it's been a little bit of a layoff for him. 34 years old. He's a bit older, and he's at a small division like 135, so you don't know how that's going to affect him. He hasn't had many fights, though, and he's a brawler, so I doubt he's going to come in here looking much different. Comes forward, Diaz, crazy head movement, winging wild hooks. Once he's on the inside, he likes to clinch, throw punches in bunches. His defense is really his offense. He doesn't really have good defense. He's throwing wide and sloppy, but he could take a shot, and fighters know that if they sit down to throw something, he's going to be coming in and trying to take your head off. So it's a little bit hard to deal with him. He's going to make fights wars, and he has good cardio toughness. His experience is there in terms of BKFC now, with this being his fourth fight. And if I'm Jordan, I may try to use composure, play rope-a-dope early, use your jab defense, get Diaz to try to be wild, make a miss, punch himself out early. With no experience, though, honestly, it's hard to see that being what happens. And I think that Diaz, if he gets his opponent into a war, unless Jordan has big crazy power, Jordan's probably going to end up wilting. And I just think with that experience, Diaz is probably going to be able to get him to fight wild. So this is a fight I'm going to go with David Diaz, but it's hard to be confident because Jordan could come out here and be way better than I think he is. But I'm going to go with David Diaz via decision. And continuing on through this card, we got Crystal Pitman taking on Sydney Smith. And this, to me, is a pretty easy fight for Pitman. Two fighters with BKFC experience. Pitman had her first two fights with BKFC in 2021. And all her bare-knuckle fights with the promotion. She's coming off a win, but she hasn't fought since July of last year. So she's going to have to come in here and remind people about what she's all about. She was originally going to fight Claudia Zamora on this card, who's a bigger name in the MMA world, someone who people are a little bit more knowledgeable about. But now with Zamora pulling out, she's fighting the 1-1 BKFC fighter Sydney Smith, who's moving up 2 weight classes for this fight. And Smith had a fight at BKFC at 125 in February that she wasn't medically cleared for. So I'm not sure if that was weight related or what, but hopefully this fight goes down. And her last fight was at 115, so I'm not really sure what went on with that. But Smith, unlike Pitman, who didn't come from another sport, had several amateur fights in MMA, went 5-3, and then she had one pro fight that she did lose, and then came to BKFC. She actually got a good win against Andy Wynn, who's someone that's known in the MMA world. But her last fight, she got kind of dominated by Melanie Shaw, who recently challenged for the BKFC title. So she's a good fighter. But Pitman, to me, good footwork, good movement, good jab, good high guard. She's gotten better with her head movement, and she can fight well off the front foot or the back foot. And I think she's going to be able to land the overhands. And she has the experience of fighting through bad cuts, still winning. She could stick to a game plan. And I like what I see from her. She can make it nasty when she has to. And she had a 5th-round knockdown in her fight that she lost, where she was being dominated, and she was able to still come in the 5th, have energy, and be going for it. And this fight should have a big power edge, and I think she should have the better boxing as well. Sydney Smith's a little tricky because she's long. She has a awkward switch stance style. She feints a lot. She throws that lead hook or a big overhand. She looked okay in her win against Andy Wynn, but Andy Wynn was pretty much running the whole fight. And Smith is more of a decision fighter. I think she lacks power. She's never gotten a knockout in BKFC or MMA. She did drop an opponent in her last fight, but she couldn't maintain the momentum. She was walked down and beat up on the inside most of the time. She is tough and intense, but she gets tired, slows down majorly. And Crystal Pitman should be the favorite here. She needs to dig the body, use her power, come forward. I think she should be able to land early and often. I think she's going to maintain the pace better. And I don't see a ton of paths to victory for Smith. Both girls are low level. Pittman's never beaten a fighter that's good, even probably never beaten a fighter even as good as Sydney Smith. But I still think she's going to be much better here and either can get a late finish or a decision victory. And now we're getting to a pretty good fight here with Fernando Gonzalez taking on Vincent Familari. And Vincent Familari is fighting the BKFC for the first time and only his second fight in general. He's only had one fight so far, and that was against Anderson Silva's son, Gabriel Silva. And Familari looked good in that fight. He knocked him out. And Silva's gone undefeated otherwise. So albeit against low-level competition, that win is aged nicely due to Gabriel Silva beating all these guys that he's beaten since. Familari in that fight was able to get on the inside, throw big hooks. He was landing clean. He got a standing 8 count. And then later in the fight, he ended up finishing it. So he does seem dedicated. He should be training in great shape. He runs in Mexican elevation a lot. And based off that fight, I mean, he seems like a brawler that's fit for this BKFC format. But it was a quick fight. Fernando Gonzalez, ultra veteran. He debuted in MMA in 2003. He's had 49 fights. This is going to be his 50th fight. And he's fought for King of the Cage, WEC, Bellator, even ACA in Russia. So he's fought all over the world. He was 7-2 in Bellator, so he actually had a really good run there. And the only losses he had were to Lorenz Larkin and Michael Page, and his loss to MVP was a split. So that was many moons ago, and now he's 40. He's 2-6 in his last 8 MMA fights, but he's shown that he's a pretty high level fighter, and he hasn't fought since 2022. He came back this year in January and had a boxing fight, not a bare knuckle boxing fight, but a pro boxing fight, and he was victorious via 4-round decision. And I think Gonzalez's experience gap is going to be big. Even though both these guys have one BKFC fight, 50 fights to one fight is an insane difference. And Fernando Gonzalez in his last boxing fight, he was able to use his experience, cardio his pressure. He had a good high guard, came forward, got on the inside, landed some nice left hooks, good dirty boxing. And he's shown good ability to close gap with straight punches when he was younger. I don't know if he's able to do that these days. He wasn't super fast or powerful in that fight, to me, that boxing fight he had. And in this one, he needs to bring that dog out of him a little bit more than he's shown before. And Gonzalez is super durable as well. He's only been knocked out twice in 50 fights, so that's something you like to see. But this is a pass for me because Familari didn't look bad as a striker, and I think he's going to be game. He's younger. He is 30, I believe, to Gonzalez being 40, and I just think Gonzalez is a good striker, though, and he's probably going to be able to use his experience to get the win. But there's just a chance that he looks bad or gets taken out earlier by the younger guy. He didn't look great in his fight earlier this year, but I just think his experience carries him through, and he wins via decision or maybe late finish here. And next we got another anticipated fight on the card with Alfredo Angulo taking on Jeremiah Riggs. Alfredo Angulo, obviously, he's another one of these WBO champion boxers. I believe Austin Trout was also a WBO champion. Paulie was also a WBO champion, and maybe a couple other guys that have came over and fought for BKFC as well. But Angulo, he's going to be making his BKFC debut here after all that success in pro boxing. He was also high-level amateur. He had 80-15 record in the amateur ranks, so extremely experienced guy. 26-8 pro boxing, over 100 amateur fights. And after 2020, he decided to retire, but now he's making his comeback. 41 years old. He stayed active in the gym training guys, but I feel like even in his most recent fights, he was slowing down majorly and looking really old. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can kind of muster it up again here. I'm a little bit curious to see exactly how he's going to look, but he's someone that, he's been in there with some of the best. He was in there with Canelo, with Peter Quillen, Sergio Mora. He was in there with Urslandi Lara. He fought a lot of really good guys, and he's someone that has 21 knockout wins, so he definitely has a chance to come in here and put Jeremiah Riggs to sleep. But looking to spoil Alfredo Angulo's return is former MMA fighter, pro wrestler, Jeremiah Riggs. And Riggs, he's had 4 fights in BKFC already, 41 years old as well, so both guys are older. There's no real advantage for either guy there. Riggs got a knockout in 49 seconds in his last fight, March 2nd, so he's coming back really quick from that fight, and he's getting a huge opportunity. He isn't a guy that was that successful in MMA. He was 7-8, and so far he's 2-2 in BKFC. But a win over a guy like Alfredo Angulo, a great boxer, would be a huge feather in Riggs' cap. And like I was saying, Alfredo Angulo in his last few fights looked way diminished. He was super slow, looked like he was punching almost in slow motion, and really struggling to cut the cage off and get inside. In BKFC, though, probably we should get more of a brawl, and that's what Angulo wants. He still has heart, at least the last time we saw him. He can dirty box fairly well. He throws a lot of punches. He has a decent jab. The power's still there. He goes to the body, but he's super hittable. He has a good chin, but who knows if he's going to get cut or hurt worse than normal with no gloves. And it's also been almost 4 years since we've seen him, and he was already looking washed up back then. So I'm not really expecting Angulo to come out here and look like a complete beast. But as far as boxing pedigree goes, he has a huge edge. And if they brawl, he probably will be able to land the big punches if there's, longer inside combinations. And one thing with Angulo, at least, I believe, he's going to give you full effort, come in solid shape, and be there to bang. But Jeremiah Riggs, he's a pressure fighter who wants to get in the pocket, just brawl it out. He's going to be the bigger guy here, and he has decent head movement. He could also take a shot, too. I mean, his last fight and other fights that I've seen of his, he's taken some big punch. Not his last fight where he got the quick knockout, but other fights of his, I've seen him take big shots. But on the inside, he throws big power hooks, uppercuts. He's pretty fast with his 1-2, and I think he's going to be significantly faster here. He's going to be the bigger fighter, too, like I said. So I would try to clinch, get Angulo tired. And this fight to me is really going to come down to who lands first and who can take the shots from their opponents better ultimately. I saw Riggs eat bombs and keep coming against Connor Tierney, which is pretty impressive. And this fight could honestly go either way to me. I'm going to give a slight lean to Riggs, though. He isn't close to the same level of boxer, but I don't think either guy's going to box here. It's going to be a brawl. Both guys are just going to throw down, and I think Riggs is going to be faster. And Angulo's been a slow starter. I feel like if he was younger, or maybe he had a couple of fights where he could have knocked the ring rust off, he would win here. But I just think Riggs is going to jump on him and get him out of there in the early rounds. Angulo's a really tough guy, so he could survive. But I think Riggs will give a lot of damage where he'll be able to beat him by decision too. So give me Riggs for the upset here. I think he's going to be able to spoil the party for Alfredo Angulo. And continuing on through this card, we got Frank Alvarez taking on Victor Rosas. And this fight, Frank Alvarez is the Bkfc fighter who's 1-2 in 3 fights for the Bkfc. He has lost 2 fights in a row, so he's going to have to bounce back here. He had a poor performance in February. He got knocked out in 1 minute. So he has to do better than that this Saturday. 35 years old, so you don't know how many more of these paydays and opportunities he's going to have going forward. So needs to maximize it with this victory here. Victor Rosas 7-2. He is fighting for the first time in BKFC, but he's been active in combat sports for a long time. He debuted over a decade ago in 2012. Since going pro in 2015, he's fought sporadically, but lately he's had success. He's had a draw his last fight, but prior to that he won 4 in a row, and now he's getting a chance to fight in the BKFC. And you watch Rosas, he's pretty slick, solid footwork, good speed, throws nice boxing combos. He works off the jab well, good lead hook, good 1-2s, 2-3s. He will throw longer punch combinations as well, and he's good at manipulating distance, landing and getting out of range. Plus, he's an accurate puncher, and defensively, he has pretty good head movement. His chin looks decent. I've seen him hurt, but he can recover well. He's only been stopped 1 time, and that came due to a cut, so obviously that's a little bit worrying coming into the BKFC, but I think he looks slick and technical overall. Frank Alvarez, he likes to make fights brawls. He bounces in and out. He feints a lot, then will explode in with power punches. He throws heat in every punch, and his last fight he got clipped with a nasty counter rear cross, dropped, and it looked like he hurt his leg or something happened, which made the ref want to stop it. And his one win was quick. It was doctor stoppage due to a cut. He got dominated in this fight with versus Reginald Barnett for the title, but he always gives himself a puncher's chance with the way he throws. But I think that Rosas probably wins this fight here. I don't know if it's going to be via decision or knockout, but I think his slickness and accuracy is the difference. So I'm going to go with Victor Rosas, and I'll say officially as a prediction that it's via decision. And the next fight we got is Angelore taking on Ruben War. And this fight, 2 guys that are veterans of the BKFC. Angelore unbeaten in 4 BKFC fights so far, 3 wins, 1 draw. Besides that, he had 2 amateur boxing fights where he went 1-1. And he's a powerful guy. He's athletic. He's explosive. He's getting better with his defense. His last fight was against a 0-0 fighter, but I think it was the most sharp and polished he's looked yet. He doesn't have the greatest footwork, but he has decent distance control. He has good combinations when he gets into range, and he's improved his jab. He rips nice hooks, straight punch combos. You go to the body. He has good power, good cardio, and tends to get better as fights go on. And fighters who are going to give Alencar the most trouble to me are slick boxers who could stick and move, have good footwork, and Alencar would also probably struggle just because of the footwork, I feel like. But Ruben Ward, he's jumping right back into the ring. He had a quick knockout win on March 29th. He is ready to rumble again, though, less than 4 weeks. I mean, that's pretty fast, but 35 years old, so he doesn't have time to play around. And he's also not been active lately, really, so he's making up for that. He did not fight from April 2021 to October 2023. Came back in late 2023, and this started his 3rd fight of 2024. So, I mean, he's really putting it on recently. But it's his 2nd BKFC fight. In the first one he got a first-round knockout. But he's fought 30 times in between MMA and kickboxing. So he has experience. He was more of a wrestler in MMA, and he's going to be faster in terms of his movement. I think he's going to want to move, jab, throw a big punch, then look to lock up or kind of clinch, level change into the clinch, and try to wear on Angelore, get him tired. Warner's BKFC fight, though, was really aggressive, had a different style, and got an early knockout. He was coming in with the high guard, landing the rear cross, throwing wild overhands. If he does that in this fight, I think that's a bad game plan. You don't get knocked out. So I feel like he needs to clinch up more. But, man, I mean, you get a quick knockout like that, fall in love with your power. I'm not sure if he's going to do it. So I'm more impressed with Angelore, and I think he's going to win via knockout. So I'll go with Angelore via knockout in the 2nd or 3rd here. And in this next one, we got Julian, Let Me Bang Bro Lane. He's taking on Evgeny Curinoff. And this is a fight where I don't agree with the line. I think it should be flipped. Curinoff, he's finally back after a year and a half away from the ring. He was a big signing for Bkfc in 2022 because he was 4-0 in bare knuckle in Russia, but he fell short in his debut, and now he's looking to come back, get some redemption. He has a big name in front of him in terms of Julian Lane, and an impressive win, could get him right back in the mix. 29 years old, so even though he's had this layoff, he's not necessarily an old guy or anything. And he's a counterpuncher. He's wild. He'll throw caution to the wind. He looks like he's a powerful guy, but he has no knockout wins. He tends to throw only single shots. He's a lower volume fighter. He likes to use head movement in a low, wide stance. And then come with the counter check hook. When he can land the right hand after the left hook, that's when he more hurts guys, but usually it's more single shots, and he's pretty accurate. He's explosive. If you sit in the pocket and brawl with him, he's dangerous, but he holds his hands too low, and hooks are there to land on him. He got dropped in his last fight, and he needs to improve his defense overall. I don't really think he has the best chin either. The last fight he lost, though, was to the current champion, so you can't take much away from him from that. But Julian Lane, he's an OG of not only MMA but bare knuckle at this point. Had his first bare knuckle fight all the way back in 2017, and he's been with the BKFC since BKFC 4. He's fought a lot of top names, and he hasn't done the greatest record-wise, but he's fought the best that the BKFC has to offer. At 36 years old, you don't know how many more of these Lane has left in him, so every fight is going to be big for Lane. But Julian Lane is definitely better than the 5-8 record in BKFC would indicate. He's a technical brawler. He's adapted his style to bare knuckle well. He got finished in a couple of his early BKFC fights, but his last 7, he hasn't been stopped. He's gone the distance with guys like David Mundal, with guys like Mike Perry, Thiago Alves. Style-wise, Lane, he likes to use a lot of footwork, lateral movement. He has a nice jab. He'll mix in lead hooks. He's still pretty fast, explosive. He can explode into range with big overhands, switch stance attacks. Excuse me, and he can land heavy. He's hasn't been able to knock anyone out in BKFC, but he's rocked and dropped fighters, and he's a really tough guy also. So it seems like he's emphasized his conditioning recently. His defense is pretty decent, but even when he does get hit, he normally can get back up and recover quickly. And he's dealt through fighting cuts well. His cardio is on point. He gets better as fights go on. He used to have bad cardio, but we've seen him, like in his last fight with Mike Perry, he was winning in the 5th round. He ended up beating Perry in round 5. But Lane came back to BKFC after a year layoff in November, and he snapped his 3-fight losing streak. He got a big win. So this fight is a fight that could likely lead to a big payday for him next. So it's a huge opportunity for him. And Lane is the style to give Curinoff problems, I believe. I think he's this slicker boxer. He's taller. His jab is going to be effective. And I think he can use his explosiveness to get inside, land overhands or switch stance strikes. He's good in the pocket if you exchange with him. And he can't be lazy on the jab in this fight and get countered with the left hook. But overall, I think Lane's going to be busier. I think he's going to be able to land cleaner, more effective punches. And although Curinoff looks powerful, he hasn't really shown stopping power in a lot of his fights. So I think Lane's going to be able to take a shot or two if he has to. And give me Julian Lane to get the upset here and win via decision. And continuing on, we got one of the biggest fights on this card. Theoretically and realistically or seriously, with Todd Duffy and Ben Rothwell, where these guys are huge. I don't know exactly. Someone put in the comments, does Ben Rothwell actually have to make a weight limit of 300, or what is it for this one? Is it lower weight? But his last fight he came in at 287, so he's a huge guy. And these guys were supposed to fight December 2nd, but Rothwell had to pull out due to an illness. So hopefully these guys get in there and handle business this time, because this is a fun fight. I really like it matchup-wise. And Ben Rothwell, he's had 2 big BKFC fights. He fought Bobo O'Bannon, got that quick 19-second knockout. Then he fought Josh Copeland and beat Copeland after Copeland couldn't get off a stool after round 3. And Rothwell hasn't fought in about a year. He's also 42 years old, but he should be the favorite here. His opponent, Todd Duffy, is making his debut in BKFC. It's hard to know if he's doing this for a paycheck or because he's coming to win, because he hasn't fought that much recently. He came back in 2023, had a fight in KSW, lost in the first round, but besides that, he only, I believe, fought 2 times since 2015, so he just hasn't really been very active. The last time he actually won a fight was at UFC 181 in 2014. But one thing about Todd Duffy, I mean, he's gigantic, he's a power puncher, and if he connect on you in the first, I don't care who you are, he could put you to sleep. So that's what makes this fun, and his fights fun to watch in general. When you watch Ben Rothwell, especially more recently, I wasn't that impressed with his last fight. He was holding his hands really low. He looked slow, plotty. He was getting clipped a lot. He came inside and he was taking a lot of really big shots. He was eating them well. He dropped Josh Copeland in the second, but at distance, he really only has a lead hook. When he backs fighters up and can throw his right hand and get into range for the uppercut and be in that dirty boxing range and throwing those uppercuts like that, it's tough to fight him. I mean, it's death to fight him in that collar tie because he's just too big. He throws thudding shots, but, he takes shots coming in. Someone like Todd Duffy, who has power, definitely could knock him out. And there probably isn't going to be too many heavyweights with the ability to move around and stick and move. But if someone can do that, then they're going to give Rothwell issues too. But Todd Duffy, he's a fighter who always relied on his physical gifts, even to this day, and never really improved too much. but he's going to be way faster than Ben Rothwell. He throws pretty decent hand combinations. He's super wild and aggressive. He is kill or be killed, and if this fight gets extended, he's likely going to get taken out, but he has a better chance than the odds indicate to me, because if he goes out there and throws caution in the win of the first round, I think it's like a 50-50 fight. I personally see this as more of a 50-50 fight, maybe 55-45 for Rothwell, just because of experience at bare knuckle, overall toughness. But if someone gets rocked early and gets knocked out, I think it's going to be Ben. I mean, if someone gets rocked and has to get up off the canvas to win, I also think that'll be Rothwell. I mean, Duffy craters under adversity. But we just saw Rothwell in his last MMA fight get knocked out in 25 seconds. Duffy's going to go out there, and I don't think he's going to be afraid to let go. And if he really believes in his power, his speed early, he lands on Rothwell, I think he can get him out of there. So, honestly, man, I'm going to go with Todd Duffy here with the upset. I'm going to say that Todd Duffy gets a knockout in the first round. If he can't get it done early, I think Rothwell is definitely going to break him down and finish him. But the odds are off. At Duffy almost 3-1. So I think Todd Duffy can win here, and because of the odds, I'm going to pick him. And in the co-main event, we got one of the most highly anticipated fights in Bkfc history with Lorenzo Hunt taking on Mick Terell. This is going to be Lorenzo Hunt's opportunity to become the first 3-division champion in Bkfc. And man, no one is safe against Hunt. He's looking to claim his third world title in the third weight class. Right now, he's the middleweight, light heavyweight champ. He's 11-1 in BKFC and the most experienced and credentialed fighter that they've ever had. And his opponent, Mick Terell, he was a bare knuckle boxing champion in England and came to the BKFC and became champion here. So he's definitely someone that doesn't mess around either. He had a misstep in his BKFC debut, but bounced back with 3 wins in a row, including avenging his loss to Arnold Adams to take the belt. And now he's having his first defense against a big talker, so he's going to want to shut up Lorenzo Hunt, and this fight should be pretty explosive and fun to watch. You look at Mick Terell, he's a measured fighter with a good jab. Everything starts off the jab for Terell. He has a good jab going forward, going backwards. He could use it to land his rear cross or his overhand. His 1-2s are his main weapons, and usually he has great hand speed for heavyweight. Defensively, he moves well. He looks to stay on the outside. He doesn't open up too much. He does have good dirty boxing and power on the inside as well, but I feel like he doesn't want to be there against Lorenzo Hunt. And Terell has finished every win he's had in bare knuckle. A lot of his finishes have came later on in fights, so he paces himself well. He has power over 5 rounds. And he's going to be at a disadvantage in terms of speed, power, and explosiveness in this fight. And he has a bit of a questionable chin to me, and I think the inside is danger for him. He's going to want to keep this fight long, pick off Hunt with the jab, get Hunt frustrated, and then knock him out later in the fight. And we definitely know that he has the power to knock him out because we've seen Hunt hurt by smaller guys. But Lorenzo Hunt, super solid BKFC fighter. He's defensively responsible. He moves well. He doesn't open up unnecessarily. And when he does go, he's extremely fast, explosive. He has a nasty left hook, straight right hand, elite hand speed. He has power off the front foot, off the back foot, power in both hands. On the inside, he has really good short uppercuts, nice tight hooks. He's going to be better in the clinch, in my opinion. If you want to come at him and make it a war, Hunt will stand his ground and put you to sleep. He did struggle with the body punches versus Mike Richmond. Richmond ripped the body, got Hunt to drop his hands, and then knocked him down. But Hunt got right back up, and we saw the type of fighter that Hunt is because he knocked him out with one punch literally seconds after being knocked down. But Hunt, he's good at staying smart and then exploding late to steal a round. He's going to need to bring a lot of movement in this fight, try to stay out of range and then explode in. And if he can get Terell to win a clinch because of the speed advantage, that's when Hunt will take over, I believe, and probably get that finish. So I see Hunt getting a stoppage here. Round 3, round 4, round 5 in the later rounds. I think Terrell's going to slow down. I think Hunt's going to put damage on him, and Terell may look for the way out. I don't like how he got stopped in the Arnold Adams fight, and I feel like if that could happen in that fight, it could happen against Lorenzo Hunt. And finally, we got the main event, guys. We got the fight that everyone's talking about, that everyone's looking forward to. Probably the biggest fight of the weekend. I would say this is a much bigger fight, actually, than the main event in the UFC with Alex Perez and Mateus Nicolau. And the King of Violence, Mike Perry, he's ready to put on another show. He's headlining another BKFC card. And he certainly turned himself into the face of the promotion. He isn't a champion in any division yet, but he's facing a former BKFC champion at, 75 pounds? This fight's going to be up at 185. And Perry has a lot of advantages. I mean, youth, he's bigger, he's been more active. He's 4-0 in the BKFC so far. And this is another big name that he's going to be trying to add to his resume. Thiago Alves, he's trying to push back on the narrative that Perry's the BKFC king, upset the apple cart. And the 40-year-old is a legend in MMA. He's someone who's been fighting for over 20 years. After over 15 years in the UFC, he joined BKFC in 2020. He won a fight in 2020 for the BKFC and then won the belt in 2021. And this is his first fight since then. And with the age, you have to wonder if he's coming back just for a paycheck. But he's always been an ultra durable fighter. He has been finished with strikes just 3 times in 40 fights. He's never been knocked out with punches either. One of his 3 TKO losses was also a doctor stoppage. So really been finished twice. He has a chance to reignite his career with a win here, but clear underdog is Thiago Alves. But you look at Mike Perry, he's a juggernaut. The guy could take a shot and keep on coming. In his last fight with Eddie Alvarez, I mean, Perry was getting lit up, but he just ate the shots, stayed composed, and does what he does, which is break fighters down. He isn't bringing anything overly special outside of his heart and durability. He's athletic, and he can land some nice lead hooks, big overhands. He'll explode in, create chaos. He brawls. He's an animal. Big power in his punches. And he could really cut break fighters' faces. Good cardio. And we've seen him win the 6-round sudden death round. So 6-round pace. In this fight, he needs to rip the body. Thiago likes to have a really high guard. So attack the body to drop those hands. Try to push the pace and eventually, land those head strikes that are going to get Alves out of there. Perry eventually is going to get put out cold just because of the style he has. Fighters with good footwork, timing, cardio, who are hard to hit will be able to beat him. In BKFC, where you have to toe the line and there's a lot of inside fighting, Perry's super tough to beat right now with his confidence and durability. But if he's fighting someone that's really crafty, that's what's going to give him issues. And, man, I mean, I feel like Thiago Alves, he hasn't had a knockout win with his hands in well over a decade. His last fight, he did get several knockdowns and a cut stoppage, but Perry's probably not going to respect his power and walk him down. So I think Perry's going to be able to get the fight he wants on the inside in this fight. But Thiago Alves is a tank in his own right. He's short, compact. He has a hard head. He keeps his hands high. He moves his head well also. And he's more defensively oriented than Perry. He uses more footwork, his jab better. He has good 2-3s, 3-2s. He slips and rips well. He'll attack the body, big uppercuts. And he's shown, good defense, and he fights smart. He's technical. He tries to avoid the brawl. This fight, he's going to have to embrace that more of that war mindset, though. He doesn't have the cardio or fast enough feet to finesse Perry to me, and I don't know if he has the power to make Perry respect him, so it's likely to end up being a dogfight. If Alves can last in that and land the better shots, I will be impressed. He's just older. I don't know if he's going to be as durable or have the same firepower. His cuts have been messy in BKFC lately, too. He turned himself into overdrive, though, in round 3 of his last fight and got knockdowns, got the finish. So Alves, if he comes in with that same hunger, we could be in for a good fight. His last opponent gassed out, though, and Perry's not going to get tired. So that's probably not going to happen. But I think a lot of people are underestimating Alves a little bit here. Early on, I think Alves has a chance to maybe win the first round, maybe first 2 rounds because he's more technical, way better defense. It's going to come down to if Perry can beat him down the stretch with attrition. I think unless there's a cut stoppage here, it's probably going to go to decision. I don't think Perry's going to knock him out. Alves more than likely, because he keeps his guard high and tight, isn't going to be able to take that same head damage that these other guys have taken from Perry recently. But I think Perry will probably get a knockdown or two, which will be the difference. And I think it's going to go to decision. I think Alves will be a more difficult opponent than Perry thinks and maybe pundits think. But I still think Perry's going to get the job done. And I'm going to go with Mike Perry via decision. So there you have it, guys. Thanks for watching this full card BKFC breakdown. Like I said at the beginning of the video, please put a comment down below. Tell me what you think about BKFC. Do you like the shows? Do you dislike the shows? Would be curious. And I'm a fan, so I would like to put out more content on it if you guys would watch it. So hopefully you guys support this video and hit this like button. And outside of that, guys, I'll talk to you guys later.